Destiny has had no shortage of crazy overpowered weapons over the last 8 years or so. Some of them have even become sentient and figured out new ways to break the game. So I wanted to take a trip down memory lane and rank the 25 most overpowered weapons in Destiny's history. We have a great mix of PvE and PvP juggernauts to explore. At number 25, we have a shotgun that rocked the Destiny world with a unique perk that allowed it to rip through any tanky enemy that it faced. The IKELOS shotgun was introduced in Season 3 during the Warmind expansion. The shotgun looked awesome, but more importantly it featured a brand new perk in Destiny 2 called Trench Barrel. By meleeing the target, your shotgun could output vastly more damage than normal, and the original unnerfed version of this perk had no limit to how many shots you could fire before the perk ran out like we have in modern Destiny. The IKELOS shotgun was extremely powerful all by itself, but it could also be paired with a debuff from the tractor cannon to deal 50% more damage. You have to remember, this was back in the days where all shotguns required heavy ammo to fire, and this combination became one of the best DPS options in all of Destiny 2. At number 24, we have a weapon that still plagues the Crucible today. LORENTZ Driver was introduced during Season 15 and instantly became a major problem in PvP. The original version had a built-in wall hack ability anytime the enemy became selected as your target to be assassinated. Once you collected 3 of these bounties, you could go on an absolute rampage, body shot killing every enemy in sight. And precision kills would create a gravitational force pulling nearby enemies into a blast that would often result in collateral kills. I've seen way too many clips of team wipes using this linear fusion. Although it's been nerfed in several ways since its inception into the game, it still remains a pain point for many players thanks to its generous aim assist and ability to ignore incoming flinch. I'll also make an honorary mention of its cousin ARBALEST, which has been a major pain point for many players in the Crucible as well, and also has been a powerhouse in PvE. At number 23, we have a shotgun pulse rifle hybrid that's risen up as a major problem in the Crucible several times in Destiny's history. Lord of Wolves has changed a number of times over the years, and every time players start sleeping on the shotgun, it somehow pops back up into the meta. Its most problematic era was when it was changed so that you could activate its alternate fire mode, Release the Wolves, for free on spawn. This doubled the magazine capacity and annihilated enemies with 10 rounds of firepower. You could kill targets from insane ranges and absolutely delete roaming supers. Players who endured the wreckage caused by this fiery shotgun earned a special emblem to commemorate this time in the Crucible. It also had a period of time during the Omni Oculus Hunter meta where it became a big issue once again. I guess we're just waiting for the next time that this shotgun becomes the biggest problem in the Crucible. At number 22, we have perhaps the most powerful sword in all of Destiny 1. All of the exotic swords blew players away when they were first added to the game, but the Dark Drinker quickly became a favorite for those interested in maximizing their DPS. After a lengthy and grindy quest to get this beast, players could use the spin to win ability to deal some insane damage against bosses and tanky enemies. It quickly became a favorite option to solo bosses like Axis. Although it hasn't directly been added back to Destiny 2, it was basically reincarnated as the Falling Guillotine, which has a very similar heavy attack. This new version of Dark Drinker was instantly a top option for DPS in Destiny 2, and it had to be reworked to stop trivializing any content that it came across. At number 21, we have a pulse rifle that instantly took over the PvP meta back in the Rise of Iron expansion during Destiny 1. Clever Dragon was an Iron Banner reward that flinched Guardians to the moon and back. It featured the highest rate of fire archetype for pulse rifles and came packed with some amazing perk options and base stats. Several high rate of fire pulses had come before this one, like the Grasp of Malak, but something about the Clever Dragon just felt special. Many players remember this as the best pulse rifle in Destiny history, and I think the Clever Dragon makes a pretty strong claim to that title. At number 20, we have a weapon with a mind of its own. Telesto became best known for breaking the game every few months. There have been over 40 Telesto bugs in Destiny's lifetime. It's become so notorious that there's even a fan site that logs every single bug instance called Telesto Report. Some of the funniest ones were when Bungie disabled Telesto, but that wasn't enough to keep it from re-equipping itself, when Telesto did double damage anytime you used the Energy Accelerant mod, which was only supposed to increase the damage of Dragonfly, Chain Reaction, and Firefly explosions, or when shooting Telesto bolts with the Ashes to Assets mod would give you 100% super energy instantly. At number 19, we have an auto rifle that rocked the Crucible in early Destiny 1. Auto rifles haven't been the focus of the meta very often in Destiny's history. There was a somewhat recent period in Destiny 2 with 600 RPM auto rifles like the Gnawing Hunger, an Uriel's Gift meta in early Destiny 2, and a Doctrine of Passing meta later into Destiny 1. But back in vanilla Destiny 1, auto rifles were incredible in PvP, and at the top of the list was the exotic auto rifle SUROS Regime. With its focused fire mode, it packed a huge punch for every headshot. It felt smooth to fire, it had quite sticky aim assist, and it quickly became one of the most popular weapons for PvP for those who had access to it, at least until it got nerfed. Number 18 is a rocket launcher that was even more powerful than the GJALLARHORN in Destiny 1 PvP. The Truth had extremely effective tracking, proximity detonations, and a magazine size of 3. The tracking power in this thing was just unbelievable. Truth would straight up do a 360-degree revolution like a fighter pilot. The proximity detonation was so generous that if you fired anywhere near the target, they were dead. And when the enemy team picked up Truth ammo in Trials, you knew the round was lost. At number 17, we have one of the most powerful scout rifles in PvP history. Deadman's Tail launched as basically the best parts of a hand cannon combined with the range of a scout rifle. In its hipfire mode with the catalyst, it had an extremely fast rate of fire relative to its bullet damage with no accuracy penalties. At close to medium range, it rivaled the best hand cannons at the time and also dominated pulse rifles in the longer ranges. The exotic perk Cranial Spike would even let you 2-tap if you landed enough headshots. It could also roll with Vorpal Weapon, which allowed it to absolutely delete roaming supers in PvP before they even had a chance. Number 16 is one of the most powerful DPS exotics ever made in Destiny 2. When Anarchy was at its best, it output some really nice damage over time, but what made it truly unrivaled was that all of that damage was completely passive. This let you shoot out a couple of Anarchy shots onto a boss for some free damage, and then you could swap over to your special weapon to dish out a ton of extra damage while Anarchy was still ticking away in the background. Alongside the amazing DPS potential, it was also great for instantly clearing out big groups of enemies as they spawned. Number 15 is a sniper rifle that caused massive pain in the Trials of Osiris meta. REVOKER was likely one of the main weapons that inspired Bungie to sunset hundreds of weapons in Destiny. It's a kinetic sniper rifle that completely breaks the ammo economy in PvP. When you miss a shot, it gets refunded back into the magazine. As you can imagine, this was absolutely busted in Trials since you'd only spawn in with 2 shots using normal sniper rifles. Despite sunsetting, REVOKER is still a problematic weapon. It's resurfaced this season with the new ranked mode, especially when combined with the Titan exotic sight and ramparts. Before we get to the next overpowered weapon, I need to pay my awesome team who helps me make videos like this one. This video is sponsored by Alien Clothing. It's a streetwear company started in 2017 by YouTube creator Elvis the Alien. I always love to support companies created by other YouTubers whenever I have the opportunity, so I wanted to give them a shout out on the channel. The clothing is all designed for people who love games, anime, movies, and science fiction. They have a ton of cool hand-drawn designs in various styles by artists all over the world. Honestly, I might be too much of a boomer to actually pull this style off, but I thought some of you might really like the artwork. Some of the drawings are really cool, and I love how they use different colored fabrics working together on some of the more complicated designs. In particular, I really like this gold future tee with the artwork on the backside. Alien's mission is to help people embrace the bold and strange through clothing expression. The fabrics that I've tested are really high quality, 100% cotton, and it seems like the artwork printing should stay on the shirts for a really long time. I would say overall the quality level of the stuff that I've tested seems really good. Their store is constantly coming out with new designs, but if you find something that you really like, you might want to order it right away because most of the items never get restocked. If you see something that you like and you want to give any of their items a try, you can save 20% by using code PATTY, and any orders over $100 will actually get free shipping. Thanks again to Alien for sponsoring the video, and let's get back to some more overpowered weapons. Number 15 is one of the most complained about hand cannons in Destiny history. Not Forgotten was the pinnacle reward from the competitive playlist, which has now been reskinned as the ranked playlist. This legendary hand cannon has a perk called Magnificent Howl, which made it extremely good in PvP. It increased your damage for a few seconds after landing 2 precision shots. This meant that you could land a kill with just 2 headshots and then a body shot. For a 180 RPM hand cannon, this made Not Forgotten feature one of the fastest kill times in the entire game once you got the perk rolling. Sometimes you could even 2-tap Guardians. This was easily one of the best weapons in the Crucible at the time and was only rewarded to the best players, which created a massive gap between the best players and the average players. The next weapon on our list goes by many names. Early Destiny 1 players knew it as the Black Hammer, Guardians that joined after the Taken King expansion knew it as the Black Spindle, and everyone who's only played Destiny 2 knows it as Whisper of the Worm. In its most powerful state, Whisper would never run out of ammo as long as you kept hitting your precision shots. Every third precision hit would automatically refill the magazine from thin air. For boss DPS encounters, this was unbelievably effective. Whisper's ability to have infinite ammo has been nerfed multiple times now, but anyone who played with this weapon during its most OP state understands how meta-defining it really was. Number 12 is perhaps the first shotgun that truly became hated by the Destiny community. We're talking about FELWINTER'S Lie, but not the really strong version that you know from Destiny 2. In Destiny 1, it was arguably even stronger. There is really no other time quite like the early days of Destiny 1 if you love shotguns. The one-shot kill range was substantially further than what we experience today. FELWINTER'S could roll a shot package which drastically reduced the pellet spread of shotguns, increasing the effective range. This thing would just map people in the Crucible and was a favorite weapon for shotgun enthusiasts. At number 11, we have a hand cannon that could take down a Guardian with a single lucky bullet. Back in Destiny 1, HAWKMOON had 2 perks that could work in tandem, Luck in the Chamber and a signature perk called Holding Aces. Luck in the Chamber would increase the damage of a random bullet in your magazine, and Holding Aces would cause 2 random bullets in your magazine to deal extra damage. Every once in a while, you get both of these perks to randomly apply to the same bullet. This would deal enough damage to one-shot a Guardian in PvP with a headshot. It was entirely unpredictable and brokenly overpowered, but it was incredible when you were the lucky one to have the RNG gods bless your magazine. Tragically, this weapon was only available for PlayStation in the first year of Destiny. After a year of exclusivity, Xbox players finally gained access just in time for Bungie to nerf the ability for all three of these lucky bullets to stack for the one tap. At number 10, we have a weapon that's recently caused a lot of discourse in the Destiny community. Ever since it was first introduced in the Garden of Salvation raid, Divinity has become a must-have weapon for any raid group. When one player hits a target with Divinity, it creates a giant cage that generates an automatic critical hit for teammates when they shoot it. Until recently, this applied a massive 30% debuff to the target. Even after the nerf to only 15% though, it will still be a very popular option for DPS phases against bosses because the cage makes it nearly impossible to miss your critical shots. This is especially helpful against bosses with tiny heads who like to move around quite a bit. Only Destiny 1 veterans will remember number 9. Pocket Infinity was an exotic fusion rifle that could be fired in full auto and would occasionally return ammo to the magazine while still firing. Instead of needing to charge up every bolt like a normal fusion rifle, bolts would flow out instantly from full auto mode. Imagine the rate of fire of the 4th Horseman exotic shotgun, but with the damage and range of a fusion rifle. This massive amount of burst damage was insane in PvP, at least when it worked correctly. Just like Telesto, Pocket Infinity experienced frequent bugs. Eventually, Pocket Infinity was nerfed into the ground, but we'll always have the memories of how ridiculous it was in early Destiny. At number 8, we have a sniper rifle that probably saved the most Nightfall runs compared to any weapon in Destiny history. Whisper of the Worm might have broken the game at times thanks to its ammo economy, but the ICEBREAKER was even worse. It was a very unique exotic sniper rifle that could only hold 6 bullets. No reserves, no magazine, no reloads. But the catch is that it would generate this ammo automatically for you over time. You didn't need to find special ammo at all, it would just be created for you. In PvE, we would sit far away from bosses and find little safe spots to snipe away with our infinite ammo. This removed all threat and challenge from much of the endgame content of Destiny 1. In fact, the main strat to beat the Oracle section of the original Vault of Glass raid was to have Guardians perch way up on the entrance with icebreakers and snipe away at the Oracles as they popped up. In PvP, Bungie removed much of the special ammo over time from many game modes. Icebreaker was untouched by this by letting you continue to use the special ammo as a primary weapon. In Trials, this became a huge part of the meta as special ammo started to dwindle. At number 7, we have the original weapon of Sorrow. Thorn was actually a laughably weak weapon when it was first added to Destiny 1. It had a very small magazine size and a slow reload speed. This was annoying for players because it was only granted from completing one of the more frustrating and rare quests in the game. An early Destiny 1 patch buffed Thorn by removing those issues and increasing its damage over time, and wow, did that make it effective. After its buff, you could perform a 2-tap walkaway with Thorn. You'd hit someone in PvP with 2 headshots and they'd be left with so little health that they would just die to the tick damage. Once you saw that you landed 2 precision hits, you could just leave and start the next engagement because the kill was already yours. Plus, a single headshot with Thorn and an arc bolt grenade would get you a kill in PvP. It became one of the most popular and hated weapons to face in the early Trials of Osiris during the House of Wolves era. At number 6, we have a combination of 2 pinnacle weapons. MOUNTAINTOP and RECLUSE are 2 weapons that were likely a big inspiration for the great sunsetting event that happened with the launch of Beyond Light. MOUNTAINTOP is the only weapon in the game with a micro missile perk. This makes a grenade fly in a straight line with a massively increased projectile speed. It basically removed any remnants of skill required to account for the projectile arc and timing of a typical grenade launcher. MOUNTAINTOP would one-shot kill in PvP if the shot landed directly on your target, and even if it didn't, the blast radius was so wide that it would leave them with barely any health. This was perfect for a swap to RECLUSE to clean up the kill. RECLUSE was an overpowered SMG featuring the perk Master of Arms. Any weapon kill would dramatically increase its damage output for a few seconds. This combo was deadly in any activity. In PvE, you could blast away enemies with the MOUNTAINTOP and then clean up the red bars with RECLUSE in the blink of an eye. And in PvP, the RECLUSE had one of the fastest kill times of any primary weapon once the perk got rolling, which was easy to do when everyone had just a few points of health left after the MOUNTAINTOP blast. If you've ever thought that the last word was overpowered on Destiny 2, trust me, this thing had nothing compared to the original Destiny 1 version. The last word featured a perk that dramatically increased the damage output while firing from the hip. If you paired this with the aggressive ballistics barrel option, this meant that you could 2-tap with double 111s. This was no doubt powerful by itself, but the recoil and difficulty aiming precisely from the hip made it a bit difficult to pull off at any decent range. Here's where things get crazy though. The damage bonus from hip firing would often bug out, allowing you to land headshots while aiming down sights for 111 damage at blistering speeds and much further ranges. This would effectively be the same as deleting an enemy in PvP. As players started catching on to this crazy damage potential, usage in PvP started to spike. The last word dominated much of the early Trials of Osiris meta next to Thorn and HAWKMOON. At number 4, we have a sniper rifle that could kill you through walls. EFRIDEET'S Spear was a sniper rifle from the Iron Banner that rolled with a perk called Final Round. This caused the last bullet in your magazine to deal a massive amount of extra damage, so much damage that you could one-shot someone in PvP just by hitting them anywhere on the body. No precision shots required. In early Trials of Osiris, players would start off the round by dumping off every shot in their magazine until there was only one left. That last shot would be the final round bullet that would give you an instant kill as long as you hit a player. This was extremely powerful all by itself, but what made things really crazy was that you could also roll with a perk called armor piercing rounds. This allowed snipers to fire through almost any surface and hit the target behind it. I think you can probably imagine the chaos of a sniper rifle that could one hit to the body through any wall. PvP focused players grinded dearly for the sniper god roll, and it became a major issue in the Crucible until Bungie finally nerfed it. At number 3, we have a weapon that could either approve or deny your request to join any LFG group in early Destiny. The GJALLARHORN is probably the most famous weapon in Destiny history, up there with the iconic weapons like the Golden Gun from GoldenEye or BFG from Doom. And many players totally missed the opportunity to buy this weapon from Xur because they didn't think it was worth the strange coins. PvE endgame content in vanilla Destiny was pretty difficult, not because of complicated mechanics, but just because bosses were super chunky bullet sponges. In fact, Destiny was harshly criticized for this, and it took a long time to shake that reputation. But one epic rocket launcher came to the rescue. In addition to the normal rocket damage, the GJALLARHORN had Wolfpack rounds that would spread off and hit the target additional times for some massive total damage. It also featured tracking rockets, so it was pretty hard to miss even on bosses who like to strafe around the map. The power gap between GJALLARHORN and a regular old rocket launcher was so vast that players without it typically dealt way less damage, and therefore they became a lot less desirable to have in your fire team. It was such a divide that the looking for group websites became a bit toxic towards any players whose accounts hadn't been graced with the mighty GJALLARHORN. Exotics in early Destiny were very rare, and there was no way to farm for most of them in a deterministic way, so your best bet was to buy them from Xur with strange coins, which were fairly hard to come by. But if you missed the first time that he sold it, you were out of luck for several months. In fact, the wait was so painful that the community deemed the day that Xur finally sold this iconic rocket launcher as GJALLARHORN Day. This was to celebrate the turn of luck for everyone who had been struggling to acquire it via RNG. At number 2, we have a fusion rifle auto rifle hybrid that was so broken that it received a nerf only 4 weeks after being added to the game. Vex MYTHOCLAST was first introduced as a rare drop from the final boss of the Vault of Glass raid, but only on hard mode. You can only loot the raid once per character per week, and to even beat the raid you had to have an extremely geared up team with tons of coordination. This meant that most players never experienced this gun until long after it was nerfed. Vex shipped with an unbelievably fast time to kill in PvP. I mean, just watch the background gameplay here. If you were lucky enough to get this incredibly rare gun to drop, you could absolutely decimate Crucible lobbies. It was rightfully nerfed after only being available for around a month, and players who had the chance to use this gun and record its initial carnage have some of the most rare footage on gaming YouTube. It was changed many times in Destiny 1 and then later reintroduced, then buffed, then nerfed again in Destiny 2. But it will forever be remembered as one of the most overpowered weapons in Destiny history. And the number 1 most overpowered weapon in Destiny history burned a deep hole through the Crucible. PROMETHEUS lens was bugged when it was first added to Destiny 2 in a way that had it dealing way more damage than it was supposed to. This era in the first year of Destiny 2 featured a sandbox with some of the slowest PvP kill times in the history of the franchise. Players often complained that the only way to win games was to team shot in the back of the map with scout rifles or deathball together to never take a one-on-one fight. But PROMETHEUS lens dealt so much damage when it was first introduced that it was basically your only option if you wanted to have a glimmer of success in PvP. The carnage was so extreme that later Bungie created a special emblem for players who participated in the catastrophe. It dealt so much damage that you didn't even need to bother going for headshots, and even roaming supers with tons of damage resistance could get melted in fractions of a second. This laser tag weekend will never be forgotten by early Destiny 2 veterans. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video, and up next check out my video on 37 weapons that define the Destiny 2 PvP meta.